Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. At this time, I'd like to call our July 2022 Planning Commission meeting to order. Before we start, I'd like to give a brief overview of the process for the public meeting of the Auburn City Planning Commission. The commission will be presented with agenda items by the city planning staff. The representative for the agenda item will have the opportunity to make comments and/or answer specific questions from the commission. We will then open a public hearing as appropriate, and this will be the opportunity for you to address the commission about the agenda item at hand. We want everyone to be heard. I ask that you keep your time to talk to 5 minutes and your comments relevant to the case at hand. After everyone has spoken, I will close the public hearing. The representative and staff will then have the opportunity to answer any questions and respond to any issues brought up during public hearing. I will open the floor to the commissioners for motions, discussions, and a vote. The commission will vote based on state and local laws, the city's comprehensive plan 2030, and the general good of the community. Having summarized the basics of the Planning Commission hearing and voting process, I would also like to summarize our role and responsibility related to the approval of subdivision plats. By Alabama statute, a municipal planning commission, such as ours, is the final approval authority for subdivision plats. With regards to subdivision plats, the commission acts as an administrative body and is bound by the limitations contained in state laws and city zoning ordinance, as well as the subdivision regulations previously adopted by this commission. While public hearings are required on most plats, we welcome any and all public comment concerning these items. Please understand that this commission's authority is strictly limited to confirming that the plat meets or exceeds the specific requirements codified in laws and regulations previously described. I would like to make the point for the public in attendance. As you know, the Planning Commission is an advisory board to the City Council, except in the case of subdivision decisions. All other decisions will be made by City Council after consideration of the Planning Commission's position. Finally, I do ask that if you intend to speak during the public hearing this evening, please do not forget to sign in and state your name and address for the record. Thank you. We will move into citizens' communications. If you are here and would like to speak on anything that is not on tonight's agenda and/or anything that is on tonight's consent agenda, please come forward. Seeing no one, we will move to consent agenda because, as always, there's no old business. Commissioners, before we address the consent agenda, are there any items you'd like to be removed? Tonight's consent agenda includes the minutes from packet of June 6th, regular meeting minutes of June 9th, an annexation for White on Ensminger Road, Farmville Lakes Phase 7, final plat approval, Spyglass Phase 1, final plat approval. Commissioners?
I move for the approval of the consent agenda, as well as the packet and regular meetings of June, and the ones appropriately be forwarded to the council with approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We will move to new business. Ms. Shepherd.
Hello. Okay, this is a preliminary plat for a property in the planning jurisdiction and outside of the optimal boundary. It is to create 8 lots out of 52 acres, and it is called WWK subdivision. As you can see, it is along Lee Road 78 in Lee County. Again, this is in the planning jurisdiction. These are the 8 lots for single-family homes. The area is largely undeveloped. All the lots are a minimum of 5 acres, and it meets the subdivision regulations for the city of Auburn. And staff recommends approval with the conditions made by the Lee County engineer.
Thank you.
Any questions for me? Okay.
Is there a representative who'd like to say anything?
I don't know that they're here.
This does require a public hearing. Would like to open the public hearing at this time for anyone who'd like to speak on this agenda item. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners, discussion? Comments, questions, motions?
I'll make a motion to approve PC case PP 2022-010 with all staff conditions.
I have a motion.
Second the motion.
And I have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Back.
Thank you. This is the final plat for WWK subdivision that we just discussed. Same property, same conditions. Any questions on the final plat? It is the exact same information.
Thank you. Final plat does not require a public hearing. Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments, motions?
Move for approval, subject to the conditions in the staff report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Moment. Next, we have
Me
Ms.
again.
Shepherd again.
Yes. This is another preliminary plat request. This is for Hickory Woods Estates, second edition. This is the site. It is north of Denius Park, and it is in a residential area to the east side. Nope, to the west side, I'm so sorry. And to the east is some commercial, McAllister's, a vet, that Mike's or store like that. It is zoned CDD, and it is CDD to the east and to the north, and then to the west is DDH, and to the south is DDH. This preliminary plat is just for phase 1 of the subdivision, which will be 10 lots. This will be conventional residential, not performance. This phase will have a density of 3.3 dwelling units per acre. The maximum density for CDD is 4 dwelling units per acre. This density is less than the surrounding area. It is less than Hickory Woods and less than Chapel Fourth to the north. The average lot size is 0.22 acres for these 10 lots. This is the lot layout for the eventual subdivision. Right now, we are only in phase 1, or right now, we're only looking at phase 1. Eventually, there'll be 4 phases, and there'll be 47 lots total. Several neighbors have contacted the city in regards to this one. The preliminary plat does conform to the zoning ordinance and to the future land use plan, which calls for low-density residential under 4 dwelling units per acre, which this would be. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Are there any conditions that we need to be aware of?
There are. They are included in the staff report. For planning, they were just to the plat itself, just comments. And for GIS, they were also just comments to be made on that preliminary plat, just data that they needed. And then water resource management, those were for the final plat. And regarding sanitary sewer and off-site easements. So 3 departments had.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a representative here who'd like to say anything?
There is, yes, and I believe he has a PowerPoint to show you.
I'm Tom Haley. I represent the owners of the property. I'm here for the historical aspects of this property. We bought this 31 years ago. If you have any questions, engineering-wise, I know the neighbor's going to have some questions. I met with them 2 days ago, the neighbors there. We had a nice meeting. I want to be clear, this is a conventional subdivision. On one page of the letter, front page, it said conventional. On the back, it said performance. but I sent them a letter and told them it's conventional. Our lots are about 70 feet compared to 50-foot lots that are in there. I participated with the first owner of that property years ago, 85 or 84, and I know it's had some problems with it, with that ownership and this. We want to fit in quietly, and the neighborhood be part. Now, I met with them about the connectivity, that they would like it not to connect to Hickory Woods. We have a way to connect it to Kent. That portion was not planned to go as first because it's in an estate of Barry Morton. He and I own that property together. He's recently deceased. But I'm glad, and Brett's glad to answer any questions. There's not going to be any clear cutting of the property or disturbance of wetlands. But anyway, we're glad to be here and answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, this does require a public hearing
Is there any other comments at the,
from the representative or does require a public hearing. I'd like to open that now. Please remember to sign in and state your name and address to the commission. Please come forward to the mic.
Tom, does it involve you building any new road off Antelope?
Please come to the mic if,
No? Okay.
please address the commission. Thank you. You can do it after you speak.
Oh, okay. I'm June Fowler. I have, that's June, I said that weird. I have been here since 1982, and I've been a teacher. I'm a retired teacher in the Auburn City Schools. But I didn't find this little neighborhood until 2001, when I had to look for another house. And this neighborhood is so unique, and the homes are quite unique. And I have a video to show you our woodland and the wetland and everything that could, with this cut through, coming through this neighborhood, would be horrible. Especially, the number one would be the safety of our children, because the road would be straight through our neighborhood. I have a video to show you.
Okay? Yes, we were allowing in public
Okay.
hearing, yes.
I hope y'all can see and enjoy this little unique neighborhood. We wanted to bring it to your attention, so, because a lot of people do not know about this neighborhood. We're like a little oasis in the city of Auburn. think all of us that, can I speak? Is that- Okay.
Excuse me, just a second.
Okay.
My apologies.
That's okay.
5 seconds.
Oh, well, I just hope y'all can, let me make this short. I hope y'all can see what a need it is to keep our neighborhood the way it is. Thank you.
Please sign in. Anyone else who would like to come and speak at the public hearing?
Mr. Peters is presenting a redesign of the property that we also presented to Mr. Haley. And we have a poster, but we also have small posters. Would anyone like a copy of that?
Will you please address the commission with all of those?
Come to the podium so we can all hear you, please. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not speaking yet. I was just introducing, Mr. Peters is going to present a redesign of the neighborhood that we presented to Mr. Haley earlier this week at our meeting. And with that, we have smaller copies if anyone would like a copy of that. And I'll hold this.
I think June's video highlighted.
Can you state your name and address for the commission,
Yeah,
please?
my name is Tonte Peters. I live at 330 Hickory Woods Drive. And I've been here since 1982. Went to Auburn University. I got three degrees from there. And my wife also did, and she went on to teach in the industrial design program. And we raised our children at Hickory Woods Drive, and it's quite a unique place, very quiet, without through traffic, and children free to roam around without any fear of being killed or run over. But anyway, we met with Mr. Haley. Was it on Tuesday? And we showed him a plan. Because his plan is basically approach from the perspective of a conventional old plan with two cul-de-sacs, and I don't think that will work. And but anyway, the main thing is that we want to keep Hickory Woods, as it is right now, and we don't want any through traffic going through it. And also, we showed him how he can develop his property and make a lot more sense with it. So we did a different layout that basically showed less asphalt being used on the site, and that would be less cost for him. We also eliminated the two cul-de-sacs, and in lieu of a loop drive within the site, and making it a lot more friendlier, similar to what Midtown Development did. There are no dead ends there. And also, the new layout fosters a walkable and safer, safer development. And to eliminate cost of building a bridge over the stream, and that will also save him some money. And I think he should look at phase one development on the northeast area of the site, because that area is a little bit more flatter than the current location, and that will give me a feel of what the property layout, of what the terrain will be like, and he can approach it a lot more better. And also, I think that there's a possibility of the neighborhood or somebody acquiring two of the properties at the end of the street, and those houses can face Hickory Woods, and we can create a little turn around there instead of a cul-de-sac. because, that turnaround will only, work for a couple of houses there. And I think they need to require a nature buffer easement that will abut to the homes that are connected to that property. So we're asking Mr. Haley to at least consider our plan and probably look at phase 1, where it's being shown, and access from Kent Drive. So we're just asking for that to be done, and that will give us more time, to even assist him develop his property that will make more sense, also financial sense, and also, beautify the area too. Any questions?
Thank you for sharing with us this new layout.
Do you guys have the extra copies?
You want them back?
We have a few left if anyone would like a copy.
The public hearing is still open. If anyone else would like to come forward and speak.
Oh, you need to sign in. While I'm up here, so I'll go ahead.
Okay.
Um,
You're next.
I don't know how to hold this.
Here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hi. Hi. Okay. I'm ready now.
Name
Oh,
and
is my time
address.
already started? Okay. Hi. My name is Josh Poole. I live at 334 Hickory Woods Drive. I'm actually Mr. Peters' next door neighbor. I would just like to voice my support of his plan. I think it is an incredible redesign. And we met with Mr. Haley on Tuesday night. We're very much appreciative of you taking the time to meet with us. That meant a lot to us. I know he's a very busy man. He's got a lot of coals in the fire, so that meant a lot to us. And I know that typically probably these 10 plats isn't something huge on y'all's radar, but it is for us. And we really are adamant about the connection of Hickory Woods to this new development, because ultimately we're not talking about these 10 plats. We're talking about the 47 plats. And with those 47 plats being zoned to CDD, that allows for up to 5 unrelated occupants, which is not unreasonable to conceive that you could have quintuple the number of cars as you do houses. So there could be 150 more cars traveling through our neighborhood every day. And if it's connected to Kent Drive, not only is that those 150 more cars from those residents, but now you have everyone from Kent Drive using our road as a cut through. But then you also have immense through traffic for people trying to avoid Glenn and East University on game days, graduation, and things like that. So it would become easily a pretty significant corridor. Our road is currently a local road, and this would make it a connector road. We do not want that. I had a great conversation with your traffic engineer, Dan, and with these, Mr. Haley was putting the impetus on the city that it's the reason he drew the original plans the way they were, and making a through road was for connectivity and ease of emergency services and things like that. But with the city's guidelines, if you have less than 100 homes, it's not required to have that connected through road. So we don't think the connected through road is necessary, and it also makes way more sense I agree with Mr. Peters that phase 1 should be at Kent Drive and not Hickory Woods. Not only is that easier part of the property to start the construction, which that is irrelevant to you guys, but it is better access for emergency services getting in and out of Kent Drive. And also, Kent Drive already has 2 access points. With Mr. Peters' plan, there's 2 entrances and exits, but also they can take a right onto Kent and get onto East University. They can take a left out of Kent and get on Annaloo. So there's already two access points for emergency services. And also with that, you're constricting it to 47 homes at that point, as opposed to nearly 100 homes if you connect it to Hickory Woods. So it would be much better for the city in that respect. We also have concerns about the environment behind the home. We know ultimately this isn't not in your backyard or anything like that. We're fully aware, we're not delusional. This is his property. He can develop how he wants to within regulations. However, I think the city and the neighborhoods affected should have some say in this. I think we have one of the most unique neighborhoods in the city. I think you guys can agree with that. It was designed as an urban city. I mean, as an urban forest, there's a unique character and quality, and we don't want that character and quality diminished. And, you know, there's 15 acres of pristine land there. We would actually love to see, I think we would love to see the city buy it and just extend Dennius Park and have it more of a primitive park. I think that would be ideal, but we can't tell the city what to buy and not to buy, and we can't tell Mr. Haley what to do with his land. Of course, we're concerned about wildlife displacement. We're concerned about, you know, the potential of clear cutting, but we're also concerned about stream impact and wetland impact. If you look at the map, you've probably seen those properties on the southeast side of Hickory Woods Drive have a stream that runs through them. It's a small stream, but with increased vegetation removal, you also have increased runoff. And that runoff would inundate that stream. And if you look at the southwestern quadrant of that property, you can see the topographic grade is pretty shallow. There's only a 25-foot drop. And that whole southwestern quadrant should be delineated as wetlands. It's not currently because they use the FEMA map, but it doesn't, that stream isn't big enough, but all of that is wetlands. And with that stream being inundated, that affects the flood risk for Ivy Lane. It also will be transported downstream to Prather's Lake and the Moores Mill watershed. I've been in contact with several agencies about that. But also, if it's clear cut, you're going to completely scalp the top of Dennius Park. The city put a great deal of effort on that, and I think clear cutting the top of that and seeing houses greatly changes the character of that park. And so ultimately what we're asking is for you to just postpone your decision tonight. We've only come up with these plans. We had less than 10 days, and we think that we came up with a good plan for less than 10 days. I think if we just had more time, I think that that's not an unreasonable ask. Thank you.
Please sign in.
I was already signed in.
Public hearing is still open if anyone else would like to speak. You can do that after if you like.
Okay. All right, good evening. My name is Amanda Poole, and I live at 334 Hickory Woods Drive. And I'm going to keep what I have to say short and sweet. Basically, I support and endorse Tonte Peters' alternative plan for Hickory Woods. It offers a way to keep both Hickory Woods residents and Haley Red happy by not making Hickory Woods a cut-through road. It preserves a tree line buffer, as well as saving Haley Red some money in development. Like others, I am concerned about safety. Having the possibility of much more traffic on our road is dangerous for those that enjoy walking or biking in our neighborhood. There's a lot of that goes on. And it would be worrisome to suddenly have the possibility of up to 5 times the amount of traffic in our neighborhood. I also want to preserve our neighborhood's namesake. We're Hickory Woods. There's loads of trees out there. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous, as you could see. That's important to me as well. And I ask that you postpone your decision.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Afternoon, guys. Dana Barker, live on 343 Butternut. I'm also here in favor of Mr. Peters' plan. Of course, Tom Haley, of course, with the designs. The Haley family actually helped me get into my home. Rick Haley sold my home, and Kent Haley financed it for us. I mean, we know the Haley family. We're friends with the Haley family, so, you know, we know what they're all about here. So for him to be open to only opening it through Kent, not Hickory Woods, I think is a very amicable thing on his part, but I think it requires more time to take that into consideration. So I do think we need a delay on that, and I do recommend that as well, to delay it until next month. Of course, opening up through Kent and not through Hickory Woods, of course, we are DDH and they are CDD, so it'd be more congruent to open it through Kent, not through Hickory Woods, not having to cut through. And you know, I could have my head in the sand. I live on Butternut, which is not near Hickory Woods. I could have put my head in the sand and say, I don't care, it's not my backyard, but however, we have a very close, tight-knit neighborhood. You know, if you saw the last part of that YouTube, we actually had a cookout and a neighborhood gathering on Sunday in that cul-de-sac where we talked about things. We had some people over from City Council. We had some big discussion about this as well. And one thing Mr. Poole didn't mention was that there's actually prospective buyers, if we do cul-de-sac like Hickory Woods, to go ahead and cul-de-sac that in and keep that separate from the property that Mr. Haley is developing. So we already have that pretty much lined up, Mr. Peters' plan. I work in media in Columbus, so I deal with plenty of people that don't want it, but you ask what? Well, what do you want instead? And they don't have an answer for you. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So for us to have a very viable solution that Mr. Peters has here to present that, I think speaks volumes for, number one, how much we care about our neighborhood, but number two, how much we want to work together with our neighborhood and have the partnership as well and care about the city of Auburn as a whole. Let's see, I think that's all my points there. The wetlands as well, one thing needs to be noted with the wetlands is that the source of that creek that goes behind our neighborhood is actually Midtown Auburn, where Niffers is on Opelika Road. So it is not taken into consideration the hundreds of pounds and square feet of concrete that is there now since the last time FEMA and the Corps of Engineers surveyed that. So the wetlands may be a lot different now, maybe a lot different situation than what you have on those maps here. They're actually dated, even if they're a year or two old, they're still dated based on all the development that happened off Opelika Road. So I think we need a delay here. You know, Mr. Haley, I think, is amicable to our new plans, take that in consideration, and come back next month and hopefully have a plan that works together for everyone. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Please sign in. Will there be anyone else that would like to speak? Hello.
Sign in after.
After, yes.
My name is Chip Burson. I'm a neighbor on Ivy Lane. I have a property there which eventually will be impacted. I assume that'll be at another time that would be discussed. However, I'm also I guess I'm an amateur botanist and artifact collector. And I would like to think about a delay for all the reasons everyone has spoken, but also to take a little deeper look because there have been some artifacts found in that area of local Native Americans, which are very important to the local tribes. I don't have enough data to speak to it, but I know that it's been done. And I don't have enough data, but I think I know where to collect it because I've been very careful not to bother it. But there may well be, and this is, I'm speculating, but I can take it further. There may well be an endangered plant native to Alabama in that wetland area. And I would at least like the opportunity to have someone with a notch more expertise and interest than I have to take a look at those. If it's not, it's not. If it is, it is, and it needs to be looked at. That's not, none of those are threats. I'm just kind of standing up for ancient times, the environment, and eventually my backyard. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to come forward?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here because I'm
Will you please state your name and address for us?
okay. My name is Victor Panangala, and I think I sent an email describing what I would like to speak today here, but I also submitted an email. And I was at the university. I'm an emeritus professor of the College of Veterinary Medicine, and I also am a veterinary medical officer of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I'm resident of 366 Butternut Drive, which is contiguous to the Hickory Woods Drive. Reference preliminary plat PP 2022-011. Thus, I opine that any new development, residential or otherwise, involves the use of Hickory Woods Drive will have a direct impact on all users of this common and only access route, Hickory Woods Drive, connecting the main road, the Glen Avenue. The reason that my family and I decided to select our future residence and thus move to Butternut Drive are concerns that are genuine, aesthetic, and manifold. In a gist, my family and I were mostly concerned with the ambience and the safety of the location, congeniality and integrity of the neighbors, lack of encumbrances, and the ease of access to the grocery stores, the pharmacies, the gas station, eateries, recreational facilities, the Auburn City Public Library, banks, places of worship. The realtor, Mrs. Monty Atkins of Prestige Properties, with whom we interacted in the quest of a suitable property, took us, my family and I, on tour to inspect more than a dozen vacant and available properties for sale within the Auburn city limits. This was actually the first property that we saw, and then she took us to 12 other properties before we finally said, turn back, we want to go to the first property that we saw. Within this spectrum of properties, my family and I selected the residential property of Butternut Drive because it met most, if not all, the characteristics that we were looking for and more. We, my family and I, would rather be at Butternut Drive, Auburn, Alabama, and call it a beloved home than any other place. The unique, salubrious ambience affords the lush greenery, the wooded hilltop overlooking the pristine lake, Prater's Lake, and the perennial stream that meanders around the property of Butternut are unique aesthetic characteristics that make this hilltop property alluring, valuable, and exceptional. At any given time, there are myriads of beautiful birds. Myriads of beautiful birds, and would at times catch a glimpse of a feral wildlife such as coyotes, badgers, raccoons, rabbits, squirrels, chipmunks, and rare star-shelled tortoises that cohabit the perennial stream. The valuable chestnut, the valuable and centesimal towering trees such as hickory, maple, sweet gum, birch, spruce, and pine abound and sheds an aura of awesome beauty. During autumn, some of the trees, particularly the sweet gums and the maples with deciduous foliage, change its bright shades of pink, yellow, and red and make the environment reminiscent of the artist's palette. We, the long-time residents of Hickory Wood and Butternut, would like to present these facts that we so much cherish and would be heartbroken to see our valuable assets destroyed by the construction of a new homestead consisting of 47 additional individual dwellings abutting our existing property. I'm writing this letter pursuant to an informal neighborhood gathering on Sunday, the 10th July 22nd, to discuss the ramifications and impact of the proposed addition constructs that would have on the already existing dwellings and the long-term residents, property owners of Hickory Wood Butternut subdivisions. Some of my colleagues, neighbors who own property on Hickory Woods and or Butternut are quite concerned with the long-term inconvenience and impact that the proposed additional new residential dwellings would have both on the present taxpaying property owners of Hickory Woods and Butternut,
Sir.
and those that will acquire the new constructs on the proposed new subdivision adjunct to the presently owned and occupied existing dwellings.
Sir,
Some of
your
my
time
colleagues have already listed point by point some of the concerns that were raised at the neighborhood friendly gathering on July 10th, and hence I would not elaborate on these significant concerns. In closing, I implore and beg the prudent attention of this august body, the honored members of this Auburn City Planning Commission, to make an ethical, just and fair assessment of the context of aesthetic and logical facts presented here in and not let power, influence, or friendship sway the decision. Thank you very much for your kind, sympathetic consideration. In addition, I have another.
Your time is up, sir.
Pardon?
Your time is up.
My time is up.
Yes,
one,
sir.
One just plea, not a suggestion, that perhaps because there's already a park which is called the Deniers Park, just abutting this piece of land, why not, Mr. Eli
Please
Red,
address the commission.
Mr. Red, why not, Mr. Red, make a donation of this property to the city, and we will erect a memoriam, a monument in his honor, if he does that. Thank you.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Leslie Carter, and I live at 311 Butternut. And personally, I just want to say I support the plea for some time to consider this, as well as Mr. Peters' plan. I also come to you with a letter from my next door neighbor who is out of state and asked if I would read this for the commission. It's dated the 11th of July. To the Planning Commission, currently out of state, my wife and I were today informed by neighbors that our current home, 315 Butternut, will be impacted by the use of Hickory Woods Avenue as the primary ingress-egress for the vehicular traffic to a proposed high-density housing project. We will be unable to attend this week's Planning Commission meeting. We have many questions about this proposal for which we can find no posted answers. We ask this letter be read at the meeting to document our opposition to such project until such time as the full consequences of proceedings are explored. And that's from Flossie S. Barker and Dr. Lewis Barker, also known as Buddy and Flossie, for those of us in the neighborhood. So thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come forward?
Hello, my name is Karen Herring. I live at 311 Butternut Drive, and I really didn't plan to speak today. But hearing from my neighbors, and we had already communicated about our concerns about this change in our neighborhood, I didn't feel like I could be quiet. And it's kind of funny that Victor and I had the same kind of experience when I was divorced and looking for my first very own home. The first house I looked at was in Hickory Woods on Butternut Drive, and then I looked at several others and said, take me back to Butternut Drive. The video really doesn't quite do the neighborhood justice, although it was lovely. I like to think of our homes as Dr. Seuss homes. And there are no other homes like this in Auburn. We have ritzy, we have downtrodden homes, homes that are in need of repair, and we're neither. But it's just this perfect little neighborhood. I worry a little bit that we're talking in front of so many people about how great our neighborhood is and close it is to shopping and worship centers and gas stations, because then that's letting the secret out. It really is this perfect little secluded neighborhood right off of Glen Avenue, close to everything. I also had not thought about speaking today simply because I'm okay in my neighborhood. I work from home and my kids are grown. Within 3 years, I'll be an empty nester. And I don't have anything to lose as far as the safety of my kids. I'm right off of Hickory Woods Drive. But my kids did get to grow up in this neighborhood. And I remember how much they loved running through the woods, running through the creek, running over to Ivy Lane where they had friends. That's the kind of thing I got to do when I was a kid, run around in the woods and play and have free roam. There's not many neighborhoods where kids can do that anymore. Certainly not in Auburn. And everything is connected, and we have these busy, busy roads. And I want my neighbors' kids to be able to grow up in a place where they can have their kids run through the woods and run through the stream and see a bunny on the side of the road and rescue the turtle that's crossing the road and see the birds, the falcons, the hawks. It's just a great little place. And I honestly don't see any reason to disrupt it. The other neighborhood that's being proposed is really more of a student population. And it does tie in much better with Kent Drive. And even if Mr. Red didn't want to make any changes to his plans at all, he could simply swap from phase 1 to phase 4 and start with the cut in there and have the neighborhood and never connect to Butternut and Hickory Woods at all. So there's lots of different options. And again, I would ask that the Planning Commission give us time to look into really what all of the different impacts would be for the neighborhood. And Mr. Red would have a lot of time to look at some different options that might work better for everybody. Thank you for your time.
Public hearing is still open. Anyone else?
I live at the junction, intersection of Hickory and Butternut.
Your name and address. Oh, you can do that later.
Okay. My name is Mary Abraham, and we live at 338 Hickory Woods Drive, and right at the junction of Butternut and Hickory Woods. I'm really nervous, but this has been a nightmare ever since I heard it, this whole thing. I mean, not to be disrespectful, but it's been a nightmare when I think of it. I have 3 children, and they grew up here. They played in our backyards. There's all kinds of animals that we find, foxes, deer. And what bothers me so much is like we really don't have a front yard. And now with the proposed connection of Hickory Woods to Kent Drive, which eventually leads to East University, our front yard is just gone. And now with those houses, they are going to be butting right at our backyard. And I tried to do the math with how close it will be, and it's going to be pretty close, right in the wetlands. And I know how much ever they try not to cut down trees, they're going to have to cut a lot, and eventually a lot of them will fall down because we've had trees fall off, some on our roof, and we had to have them cut off. So it's not, even though Mr. Haley said they will not disturb the landscape, a lot is going to be disturbed. And I'm just thinking, okay, my youngest is still with us. Eventually, maybe we'll sell the house, and I know children will come. And they're just going to miss out on everything like this. Now, there's going to be because we are right at the junction, there's going to be a lot of traffic. I know if I had to take that shortcut through from East University, I would do it if I was not living there. If a shortcut was available, because that intersection, we don't have to wait for games or for graduation, but East University and Glen, that intersection in front of Lakeview, is pretty busy and a lot of accidents, and people will take the side road to get out of that. So, and it's a nightmare to think of the traffic that would be right in front of our house. So I just would really like you all, I don't want 1 month delay, I don't want 6 month delay, I just don't want that street to be broken up. Let me put it that way. Even 6 years from now, 10 years from now, we are going to disturb that whole neighborhood if we put that street down there and those houses back there. I would really like Tonte's plan. If we could get a buffer right behind our homes, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Please sign in. Anyone else that would like to speak? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Thank you all.
Oh.
I'll open the public hearing, yes.
I'm Allison Lyda, and my address is 375 Butternut. And I don't want another road to be in our neighborhood because a lot of people like some people ride bikes, some people ride scooters, some people roller skate, and we don't want that to stop, and all the traffic, we walk our dogs, and when they start the construction of if they start the construction or if they make another road there, it's all the animals would be kicked out of their homes. And we wouldn't want that to happen because then the animals would have to pack up and go somewhere else. And we don't want that to happen for the animals, and there are a lot of things that we just don't want to happen to our neighborhood. And a lot of just we have fun activities here. We do a lot of fun things. We have great backyards, great animals, great front yards. We have great houses. We have great families, all of different sizes. And we really don't want this neighborhood to just have another road inside of it. I'm done.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I will close the public hearing again. Oh, sorry.
Hi, my name is Harrison Lyda, and I live on 375 Butternut Drive. So over the past few months, I've been walking a lot in my neighborhood, and it's been a fun, peaceful thing for me to do. And if they took the dead end and they made a new neighborhood out of it, I feel like it would be a lot more unsafe to walk, and for other people that like to walk and ride bikes and things like that, I think it'd be more unsafe for them, and it wouldn't be as peaceful. And I just don't think it'd be the best thing. And I am in support of Mr. Peters' plan, and just for a more peaceful neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Abraham George. I live at 338 Hickory Woods Drive. My wife is Mary Abraham. I have 3 children. They're grown up. The last one is about to graduate from Auburn University. I started my life here in Auburn in 2000. We bought this house, like many others, after seeing many other houses. But when we saw the sketch in the mall, we just, without even having that built, we immediately said, that's what we want to build. And that's what we did. And so the architect was living next to us, where Ms. Nan lives now. And Mr. Prasad built that, and a unique architecture in the urban forest environment. We never, in my wildest dream, I never thought this will happen. But after many discussions with Josh and Tonte and many of the neighbors, I felt that working with the team, working with the city, working with the commission, this may be an opportunity for finding a solution. And therefore I support Tonte's the design option that is presented to you, and also requesting the extension for decision. Thank you.
Thank you. I will close the public. Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought we were just opening it for.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Lyda, and my address is 375 Butternut. I would first off like to say that I am in support of Mr. Peters' plan, and I do ask for the postponement of this decision. We love our quaint, quirky neighborhood. My family and I have lived there for 11 years, and we're raising our 2 kids there now. We have a dog. We walk our dog there, and our kids walk, scooter, bike, you know. So we would really hate to see the excessive traffic that would that this extension would bring if there is a cut through. And Mr. Peters' plan, I feel like, would be a solution to this. So we would just ask for the postponement of this decision, and thank you.
Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Representatives, I feel like there's probably some questions that we would like to ask.
Brett Basquin with the Foresight Group, representing the applicant. You pull that?
We have a new computer.
Okay.
This is the first time using this one.
So I'm gonna pull a copy of the original preliminary plat submitted on this property many moons ago. And what you'll see is that this neighborhood was always contemplated as multiple phases.
And what year was that?
What's
Do
that?
you know what year that was?
I think it's 1985. At Hickory Woods. All right, so that top plat's the original plat that was, original preliminary plat that was submitted to the city back in 1985. You can see the red outline is the previous phase that has been developed, while those cul-de-sacs are connected as a loop road in that existing condition. You can kind of see that the blue side, which is the phase that we are talking about here, you know, we're pretty consistent with what we were planning on doing back in 1985 when this subdivision was originally contemplated. The only difference between what that plan is and what our plan is we're a lot less dense. You know, we're providing bigger lots, we're providing less density. While this is stubbed to the east here, there's a significant grade change in property that way. You know, I think that there's a lot about preserving vegetation and concerned about the animals and streams and wetlands and all those types of things. You know, the good thing is in the city of Auburn, the local ordinances protect the wetlands and the streams and buffering those things, and those things are regulated. And so, you know, most of the things they're talking about are going to be able to are staying there. We're not planning on disturbing a lot of those areas. You know, and the city requires us to get those delineated and shown. You know, the access to Kent Drive, we were showing as a what if we had to connect through there. Currently, this property does not abut Kent Drive immediately. And the property separating the access from here to Kent Drive is currently not obtainable. So the thought that we're going to start from that phase and come Kent Drive, we were showing that as a concept. At the end of the day, if we get to that phase, that may end up just being a cul-de-sac and there may not be a cut through. So the thought that this is going to be a cut through for game day traffic and all this other stuff is, you know, I don't think is really viable at this particular time. One of the things I do want to mention is they were concerned about safety of biking and scootering and rollerblading and walks in the neighborhood. When this neighborhood was originally developed, it was back before we had subdivision requirements that required lighted streets and sidewalks and those types of things. So in this new section, you know, they'll be able to have the ability to walk on sidewalks, walk the neighborhood and not be in the streets, but be in sidewalks and be protected as a additional measure for safety. You know, at the end of the day, this is a preliminary plat. And, you know, we are in the preliminary phase, and working through those requirements. There's not many times I'm able to stand up here and say, hey, my plat meets the zoning requirements, my plat meets the future land use requirements. My plan is less dense than the original plan, and that we plan on, as I said, the applicant has agreed to work with the neighbors as best he can, and we'll try to minimize the amount of impacts to disturbance and those types of things. But I think the neighborhood charm is part of what is going to help sell these lots. And I figure that the homes that are going to be built in here are probably going to be more in character with what the existing character is than to change the character of the neighborhood into some other different product type. So I think preserving the trees and the characteristics of the neighborhoods is important to the development, and I think that's the goal here. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. Are these going to be, these are single-family
Yeah, they're
homes that you
single-family
have
homes.
planned here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what would you say the price of those lots is going to be, just out of curiosity?
I mean, I would expect them to be, probably around 100,000.
Yeah? Do you think they're going to be turned into student housing at some point?
No.
I didn't think so
No.
either. I just wanted to make sure I was in the right ballpark.
Yeah. No, I mean, the city has ordinances protecting these houses will have to be built as a single-family home, master bath, the whole get-up as a true single-family home. Now, who buys and lives in that house is no different than who can buy and live in the house in the current neighborhood as well.
Right. Okay.
But it's zoned to CDD, not DDH.
I'm sorry?
It's zoned to CDD, and we're currently DDH. It's a totally different zoning.
So I have a question about how big the buffer is around the current, like what's required by the city for your plat? Buffer on the sides of your plat. Is there one?
Oh, no, there's not. It's residential against residential, so there really won't be any required, perimeter buffer strips here. Maybe out to the, in the future phase to the far east where there's existing vacant land or commercial, there'll probably be, wouldn't there be a buffer up against the?
Not between the residential.
Yeah, but not between the residential.
If it's conventional, there will be no buffer.
Okay, yeah, so really there's no required buffers.
Second question, the wetlands impact and stream are reviewed at DRT?
Yeah.
Is that what happens? So it will go through the city's process. Okay. Question about the street level upgrade. Does adding 47 homes change, like from a regular residential local street to any other category that we have as a city?
It would not.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Okay. Any other questions?
Good.
Okay. I would like to reiterate a little something before the commissioners make a decision. Our authority is limited to confirming that the plat meets or exceeds specific requirements codified by the laws and regulations. So this is not discretionary.
No, and the writers of our enabling legislation apparently assumed that subdivisions would not be controversial, and therefore they put the 30-day limit that we must act, or by default, it goes into effect. So that's why any delay, we must act on it now, rather than put it to the next meeting, even if we wanted to. And while I'm got the floor, it's obvious, and the pride these people have in their neighborhood is wonderful. It's obvious, and it is. I drove through it again. I'm very familiar with it. Drove through it again this week. It is quirky, and it is different. And yes, you use the street as recreational facility as opposed to a part of a transportation network. And yes, that might have to change. But other than that, this property is not going to be a great deal of difference, the new subdivision, than theirs. The stub out has been there since Hickory Hill was platted. The stub out has been there. We require the stub out so there's no dispute as to what the stub out is supposed to be, it is paved to the back property line, to the adjacent property. So the stub out should be a clue that that road was expected to be connected to make access to the property to the north and to the east. The second thing is the CDD zone has been in place on that property that's in question since 1985. So that shouldn't be a surprise. So this development meets the requirements, or this subdivision plat meets the requirements of both our subdivision ordinance and our zoning ordinance, our subdivision regulations and our zoning ordinance. And it, to me, is not going to have the detrimental effect that people think it has. Connectivity is good for public safety. What if we had, the one intersection there, at that intersection, a major wreck ties that up and somebody has a heart attack on Butternut? You got to wait till it clears it up. If we eventually get a connection and on out, there would be people, you would have more than one access. It's considered to be in the best interest of public safety to have more than one egress and ingress to a neighborhood. Public streets are for the public, and I don't think that's going to be detrimental to your community. That's the community, so that's my comment. Now, I won't make a motion until everybody else has a chance to speak.
Well, yeah, I'll echo, most of what you said. And I think that I do want to commend this neighborhood for coming out and speaking up like you guys did and everything. I think that was, it's a great thing. But I think procedurally our hands are tied on some of this because basically we're looking at whether or not the plat meets the subdivision regulations. That's pretty much what we're here for. And we can't, as he said, we can't table it unilaterally, and we also can't, change the plat up here. But the applicant seems like they're willing to work with the neighborhood. So hopefully, some things might be modified here and there, what have you. But that's not something that we can do from here. So.
Yeah, I just would add one other thing, and that is talking just about the purpose of zoning itself. Zoning creates two guardrails. One, it creates a guardrail for the person who's the developer. That is, it says what type of applications are not allowed. In this particular case, this particular applicant is not coming in trying to put in a multi-family dwelling, big student development. He's also not doing anything that's commercial. Matter of fact, he's going to the low end of the land use here. He's putting in single-family dwellings when he could put in duplexes. So you need to consider the fact that in this particular case, this applicant has met those guidelines. The other guardrail is for you guys. That is, it works the other way. As long as this applicant has met the guidelines, it also creates a barrier against you saying no. Because it says this guy has met all the guidelines, and so therefore this body is by law actually obliged to say yes to his application. So there's two components. It's not just that that neighbors can come in and say, not in my backyard, when it's been this way for a really long time. And so you have to realize there are two components to this. There are two guardrails. It protects you from the type of development that is out of character with your neighborhood, and it protects the developer to make sure that they have the certainty that they need to be able to invest in the land for 35 years. Is that how long? 31 years, pay the taxes on it, and do everything else to wait for the right time when it's economically viable for it to be developed. And finally, just on my own personal opinion, I think we need to do this infill. That is, taking these areas that have not been developed in the city of Auburn and develop them. Why? Because it's more efficient for our taxpayers. All of the services are there, ready to be used. All the services are there, ready to be accessed. It's easier for our fire departments, it's easier for our school districts, it's easier for everything else. These types of wooded areas should be on the outskirts of the city, or designated as green space here in the city of Auburn. Well, still is.
Yeah, all right.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, I think that it's important that we realize that this land use is consistent with what's expected.
Commissioners, anything else? No?
Didn't hear you.
Commissioners, I need a motion.
I can move that,
Is there any way to say something as a response?
No, sir. I'm sorry. The public hearing has been closed.
So we,
I move that the case number 2022-011, Hickory Woods Estates, second edition, be approved, subject to all of the conditions the staff has applied in our staff report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all for taking the time to come out here tonight and voice your opinions. It's important to stay.
And we read every one of those emails. Yep, we did. Every one.
Katie, if you'll wait just a second. Let them.
If they wait long enough, you'll see us turn one down. See, they never what state.
I'm going to leave that to Warren.
They, yeah, you know, sit up here, you're always gonna see somebody that's you've known and known.
Right. Okay, thank you so much. We'll get started back.
All right, thank you, you did a great job with that.
All right, the next item on your agenda for the evening is Watley Farms, and this is a preliminary plat for a 7-lot subdivision. The property is located outside of the city limits and outside of the optimal boundary, but it is inside of our planning jurisdiction, and it is also inside of the Lake Ogletree watershed. The property is located, let me go back one. Just kidding. Property is located on Lee Road 112 and at the terminus of Lee Road 48. The proposal is to access the property off of 112 and to construct a bulb of a cul-de-sac here. Here's an enlarged inset for the rest of the lots. The lots do range in size from 14 acres to just over 35. The plat meets or exceeds the subdivision regulations, and we do recommend approval with conditions. And we did get a couple of phone calls and emails about this, but it was only for informational.
Are there any
purposes.
conditions of note?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a representative here who would like to say anything?
be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. This does require a public hearing. We'll open that now. Anyone would like to speak on this item?
Davis Whittlesey. I live at 289 Lee Road 48, which is the bulb that was being developed. I think it ties into 3 of the proposed subdivided lots. Is the only thing that we're dealing with here is subdividing, was it 180 acres?
It is.
Is that right? What's the average size of the subdivided lot?
14 to 35 acres.
Okay, and what access is coming off of 112 into how many of the lots? And I guess my question is, was one?
Looks like
just two?
Yes.
How are we accessing the back 2? If you got 7 lots, I didn't see the access to, I guess, the back 2 lots.
So 48.
But I thought that only accessed 3 lots.
access is 7, 6, 5,
4 and 3, yeah.
Maybe I'm confused on,
So right here,
yes,
right there, right here, and here are 2
okay, I
stems
understand.
that
I
go
understand.
along.
Are there, but any plans in the future for for future development plans on this property?
No, sir, this is all that we have received.
Okay. And so, I don't even know what it's zoned. What is it zoned?
It's in the county, so there is
Oh,
no
it's not
zoning.
zoning, you're right. I think we just went through that. Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you much.
Thank you. Will you please sign in? Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this item? Yes, ma'am?
We had a debate between the two of us who was going to speak.
You won.
Neither of which we were prepared. My name is Starling Grisham. I live at 262 Lee Road 48. And it was mentioned earlier, we are outside the county, but we're maybe 2 miles close to the city of Auburn, 5 miles close to Opelika city limits. So we're, we're right in the middle. The area that we live in was originally called Chimney Acres, and it was set up by a local Auburn resident, Clyde Prather. The house that I live in was the house that was located on the grocery store on Kroger's grocery store, located, and I can't think of what the street is, your Kroger's is. But the house was located there. That was farmland. So you can see what the growth has been, and what is developed. But our house was moved out there originally to begin to set up this neighborhood. The neighborhood consists of about 15 houses. Most of us are retirees who wanted the conveniences of the city, but also to live out away from the city. So that's why most of us are located there. Our main concern is, as what Davis brought up, the little section going into Chimney Acres is one way in and one way out, which is 48. 48 goes in and it takes a little left-hand turn. It's a dead end, and it has 3 houses located on it. And so what this would be doing is opening up that end and giving access to approximately 7 lots that can be subdivided into 4 more lots. And so we start adding up. How many cars is that's going to come out of that area that previously was no access? When we look at the amount of acreage that is involved in this development, is there not another access way to not put this right in this little narrow area, to add so many lots, so much traffic? It took us 20 years to get our road paved by the county. The extra traffic that's going to be coming onto that road, the construction that would be involved in building these houses, we see that as all of a downgrade to our residential area. And that is that's mainly, our objection, because there's so much land there that's being developed. Is there not another way to access that land besides coming in and extending our road to get to it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Now readdress the committee.
The public hearing is still open. Is there something different?
I just had another question. What was my concern, true concern, was to not end up with another Watley farm below Lee Road 48. Is everyone familiar with Watley's farm? It's off Lee Road 112. It's a non-subdivided plat that has multi-houses that are rentals on it. But I understand what's before the committee now is simply the subdivision of this 180 acres of property into 7 lots. So I'm not so much, I know we can come back and re-subdivide, but is there anything before the commission, or is it proper to be before the commission right now, on, is this single family, is it multiple family, is it, are rentals allowed? I'm really making inquiry.
I'm gonna have to ask staff that question since it's in the county. I don't know if they have any of
Right,
that.
so since this is in the county and there is no zoning,
We have subdivision authority, but we do not have land use authority.
correct?
Okay, so the
Zoning.
planning, so it's not, isn't subject to the rules and regulations of the planning commission,
Other than
other than
Subdivision.
Correct.
subdivision.
Not use regulations.
Right,
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Mike.
thank you. You want me to close the public hearing? Are you the? Anyone else like to speak? I'm gonna close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Representative.
Blake Rice with Barrett Simpson Engineering. I just thought I would talk for just a moment, clarify some of the residents' concerns. It's our understanding this is a piece of family property, and there are 7 heirs to this property, and they are subdividing for, hopefully, the current owners' hopes are that their 7 heirs build 7 family homes on this piece of property. I can't say that that'll happen immediately. You may not see a house out here for years. You may not see anything. But right now, that's the intent of this subdivision plat.
Is there any current plan to do anything at the end of Lake Road 48? The cul-de-sac that would be needed?
In order to create enough frontage for those 5 lots to take access at the end of 48, a actual cul-de-sac will have to be constructed directly at the end of 48 to county standards so that these lots can take access.
Access.
Is that currently in plan, though?
Yes.
Yes. Okay,
I'd be
thank
happy
you.
to
Any
answer any others.
questions for the applicant or representative? Seems you're free. Commissioners? Thoughts, comments, motions?
Well, I'd have to compliment Barrett Simpson for figuring out the ways to get it all divided up. Those are some interesting polls on these lots. But with that being said, it does meet the criteria of our subdivision regulations, and therefore I would recommend or make the motion that we approve with, subject to the conditions identified in our staff report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Robinson.
All right, the next item is also a preliminary plat, and this is for the old Sanford property for,
Can you hold on 1 second?
I
I'm so
can.
sorry. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. If you could take your conversations past the door, I'd appreciate it. Okay, Ms. Robinson.
all right. So this is a preliminary plat for Old Sanford for pods 1 and 4. The total area of this portion is 129 acres. They are proposing,
Pause one more time. I'm so sorry.
no problem.
Excuse me, Blake, and I'm not sir, sir.
Gavelin.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't think he can hear me.
All right.
Sir,
Excuse me.
Ms. Robinson.
Okay, third time's the charm. 188 single-family lots and 8 open space lots. The density is approximately 1.45 dwelling units an acre, which is less than what was approved in the master development plan. This is a little bit different than what was
Yeah.
approved. The plats say Pod 1 and Pod 2, but it's actually Pod 1 and 4. Both of those have connectivity. Pod 4 connects to the extension of Camden Ridge. And then there is another entrance off of Mrs. James Road into Pod 1. And then, well, that's actually where I wanted to be. This connector road off of Mrs. James will eventually turn down into the center part of the subdivision. And this road right here is Shadow Bend that runs from Camden Ridge into, I believe that's Kennesaw, that connects them both. We did receive a couple of phone calls for information. The plat is consistent with the future land use plan and meets or exceeds the subdivision regulations, and we do recommend approval with conditions. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Are there any conditions of note?
No, just notational.
And I'm sorry to ask this, but this has a PDD.
This is a PDD, it is.
So the
And it is
changes did
consistent,
not- okay, thank you.
generally consistent.
I'm so sorry. I flipped myself around. This does require a public hearing. If anyone, I would like to open that now. If anyone would like to speak on this item. Seeing no one, I shall close the public hearing. Commissioners? Representative is here.
I have to admit, I like to see when density has been
Lowered.
And so I think it addresses probably the needs of the housing market right now. So I support this.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion. Motion to accept it with staff recommendations.
And item 8.
Did you second, Marcus?
Sure, I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up. Shepherd.
This is for an annexation. It was moved from the consent agenda to new business because it is in conjunction with a preliminary plat. This is an annexation for 22.87 acres into city limits. This is off of Society Hill, Lee Road 54. It is right here. It is south of Moore's Mill and west of Society Hill. It is this property right here that is being annexed. Previously, another similar property was annexed in by the same person. And eventually, these two are going to be Glenwood Farm, Phase 1 and 2. This property will be Phase 2 when I get to the preliminary plat. There are no issues with the annexation, and staff recommends approval. The only conditions were just things about the title and little minor corrections.
As an annexation, you have any questions for? As an annexation, it does not require a public
It
hearing.
does not.
So, commissioners?
Just out of getting me oriented now, this is,
Society Hill.
yeah, this is the
Lazy Hill.
Society Hill. There's a convenience store or an old, or a filling
This is the
station.
potting shed.
Yes,
Okay, potting
yes,
shed,
yes,
okay,
sir.
yeah. Now, there's a potting shed there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going inside, okay, I got you.
Okay, I make a motion to approve agenda item 9 with any and all staff comments.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Welcome back.
Thank you. Here's that property again. This is the preliminary plat for the property that was just annexed in. It will stay rural. It is for 8 lots, 7 of which will be conventional, single-family subdivision. They will have a street to be dedicated when it is constructed. One additional lot that was not annexed in is part of the subdivision. As you can see, the annexation is slightly different. There's a 3.05 acre lot that's included in the plat. It has an existing business on it and did not want to be annexed in, but it is part of the plat. It is that,
Which one of those is?
lot 15.
15? Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yes, so that is the one existing lot that has the business. The rest will be the conventional, single-family residential. And it does meet our size criteria and all other subdivision regulations. And the same comments apply as the annexation.
This does require a public hearing.
This does require public hearing, yes.
I will open the public hearing at this time if anyone would like to come forward and speak about this item. Seeing no one, close the public hearing. Thank you. Commissioners?
Make a motion to approve 2022-0114 with approved with conditions.
I have a motion.
Second.
Thank you. I have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Robinson?
Okay, these next two are for the Cash property. The first one is a preliminary plat to subdivide 148 acres into 20 lots. The property is located outside of the optimal boundary, inside of the planning jurisdiction. It is near the city limits here. It's located on Lee Road 72. And I did not, I stand corrected. Logan did send me 2 emails for information purposes, just for the plat itself, and they had no concerns. Staff does recommend approval, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Property is remaining in the county.
It is, yes.
And curb cuts on all the lots along the road. What I'm seeing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Flag, I was just making sure
Yeah.
I wasn't seeing, not missing something. That's all my questions.
Okay.
Is there a representative here?
Mr. Rice.
Be happy to answer any questions.
This does require a public hearing. I'd like to open that now, if you would like to speak about this item. Welcome.
Thank you. My name's Bill Bruner. I'm at 6831 Lee Road 72. I'm a neighbor of that Cash property. My question is really probably more to Barrett Simpson, but when we just saw the public notice and thought we'd come here for some answers, as a Loblockie Creek will divide us and the Cash property in this development. So my question is, there's a lot of watershed on both sides of the creek, on our property and on their property. And it's hard to tell here, but I think about half of each of those lots are gonna back up into the watershed. So, I guess that's a question for you guys. And then what type of housing's gonna be there? It is in the county. I know that the regulations are not that great, so I guess our concern is, what's gonna be there? What's gonna be our neighbor? And then I guess the other question is when they put in the infrastructure, the road infrastructure, there's nothing. If every driveway's coming off those roads, there's a lot of driveways, and then my question's gonna be things like sewage and things like infrastructure and power and all that. So, again, just simple questions that maybe Barrett Simpson can provide some answers to.
We'll ask him to answer all those once the public hearing is closed.
Okay, thank you.
My name's James Sexton. I live at 12265 Lee Road 188. The corner lot, actually, stand in my kitchen, you stare at this. Same concerns, you know, we don't know what size the houses are, but if you few of those lots, that's a natural spring, and you got to be so far from a natural spring to put septic system. So if you don't have much room from a home and a septic system, I mean, how's that going to all work? And because you got that, and then a couple things he asked, you know, what is there going to be a guideline on the size homes that needs to be built, which I don't think you need to because you're in a rural area. But main concern is the sewer system. It's like, how are y'all gonna do that? Is it all gonna be divided, each lot gonna be divided and ran somewhere else? Or are they gonna do sewer system, or septic tanks and field lines? Because if you put a home on a couple of those, the house is gonna be right there on the front of the property, downhill slope going to the pond. So how you gotta be so many far away from a natural spring, so that's something that needs to be kept in.
Okay.
So.
We will ask. Anyone else like to speak? Seeing no one, close the public hearing. Representative, do you mind answering some questions?
Not at all. Again, Blake Rice, Barrett Simpson. The two neighbors that just spoke understood. There are some questions, and I think I can answer most of them. As far as the lots themselves, this is like 140 some odd acres over 20 lots. It averages out seven acres per lot. There are some that get down around the 3, but then I think there's one that's 20 or so. Mr. Bruner did speak about the creek through there, and there is a significant floodplain in this area. And you'll notice that as you move south of the pond, the existing pond on the property near the northern end, after that, these lots abut that creek, and they get 1,000, 1,200, 1,400 feet deep. And each one of them down through that area is 4, 5, 6, 7 acres minimum. And what we've done is created lots. These are all septic. I did hear a question about sewage. There's no sewage available in the area. And we are significantly away from any water bodies with septic. State standards is something, I think, from the actual water body is 50 feet. We've got 1,200 and 1,300 feet to work with here. These are custom home lots. That's what I know at this point. I can't tell you exactly what type of home would be built or what the exact price point is, but you don't take a piece of property like this and put unattractive homes on it on 7 acres. We are expecting, there is a significant number of driveways. We are currently working with the county about the driveway spacing. I'm expecting at least a few shared driveway. So we're in the process of working that out with the county engineering department. I did hear something else about roadway infrastructure. It's important to note that there is no roadway infrastructure. These are all frontage lots on existing county roadways. So other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions from the commission.
So you do think you can work it out so to meet the county's 250-foot spacing
Yes, sir.
requirements on curb cuts?
Yes, sir.
All right. Commissioners?
Once again, this meets all the regulations. And we can't dictate what kind of development will be on each one of these lots, but we do have jurisdiction, at least in terms of the division. And as long as they meet those guidelines, then I think we really have little choice but to agree.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next.
All right, the next one is the final plat for the same area. Cash property, 148 acres, 20 lots. And we do recommend approval with the same conditions as is noted in the preliminary plat.
Thank you. This is a final plat and does not require a public hearing.
Correct.
Commissioners, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve 2022-010 with conditions.
Seconded.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next. Ms. English.
Here to close out the agenda. And this next case is a request for a recommendation to City Council for rezoning of approximately 0.21 acres from Development District Housing to Medium Density Residential District. The property is located at 305 Harper Circle. Here's an aerial of the site that shows it's located on a cul-de-sac at the corner of Harper Circle and Harper Avenue. Approximate variety of zones in the area. To the west is MDRD, which is the requested zone, DDH, CRDE to the south. The property, the future land use designation is low to medium density residential, which does align with the DDH zone in terms of density. The applicant wishes to rezone in order to allow for short-term rentals, which is not a permitted use in the DDH zoning district. Staff does recommend denial, as the request rezoning to MDRD would be in conflict with the future land use plan. And that's about it for this one, so if y'all have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
The applicant and/or representative here.
Hello, how are y'all? Mike West, I live at 2384 Cox Road. So I think we're probably the only ones in town not tearing down houses and building. But my wife and I have actually owned that for 9.5 years. All our kids went through college. So we're actually just trying to get in line with the neighbors behind us that have just rezoned or fixing to build whatever they're building. And they actually touch us beside us. So I think you said deny. Yes, I think it's the same zoning that he has already done that he just went through. So I'd ask you guys to just consider that. Like I said, we don't have any plans to tear down or build anything. We're just trying to get in line with what's in the area to take advantage of the STRs maybe, and actually to leave that home open for our kids. They've all scattered across the country. So when they come back, we like to actually let them stay there. So that's really our big plan with that.
Are you planning to live there yourselves?
No, we're not. We live on Cox Road. We've been here for a long time. We've actually owned multiple houses downtown Auburn. We've actually had one on Rhine Street. But that was an investment for our kids to go to school. And we've successfully completed all their education, and they've scattered across the country. So like I said, we don't want to, we're not wanting to rent it out long-term because of the damage that comes to your properties when you do that. We've experienced that also. So we want to actually just leave it open so our kids can come back, or family, and to take advantage of STRs possibly down the road. Like I said, none of that is actually in concrete, what we want to do. We're actually trying to get it in line with our neighbors behind us. So everyone around us has pretty much already done this.
Well, now, the property to the, I'm sorry.
Yep.
So we have a public hearing.
Okay.
We can go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back up for
Yeah,
questions.
did he have a question?
No, I'm just gonna comment, but I'll wait till my.
Okay, sure, yeah, thank you.
I'd like to open public hearing on this agenda item. Please, if you would like to come forward and speak. Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. Your comment.
Well, I was just gonna say, he's talking about everybody around him is MDRD, but everything around this lot, with the exception of his back, is DDH. So he's not surrounded by MDRD, he's just abuts it. But this is I think a really stable DDH area, and further encroachment on it with MDRD, I think would have a negative effect.
Let me ask staff a question. Tell me a little bit about the MDRs that were just rezoned, according to at least, is that true?
The MDRD?
Yeah,
The property to the west was rezoned, I believe, in 2021. The property across Summer Hill, further to the west, was rezoned in 2019. They were both rezoned from RDD.
But
When we did the whole Harper Avenue study.
Yes.
That was 2019. But the ones directly to the west were a separate rezoning.
what happened is, if I recall, the lot on the corner was in pretty bad shape, and the person wanted to tear it down and build back, but he wanted to be able to have more flexibility than was allowed under the, what was it?
And we're thankful y'all passed that, because that was a very bad house.
And so what we said is, then if this lot may need it, then let's examine the whole area. We held that, if I recall, did not rezone it until we studied and recognized that the conditions similar were up the street, and that's why we made the larger rather than a one-lot spot rezone.
Correct.
I believe it's also true that that rezoning was consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that was my next question.
That was
Okay.
the difference.
Whereas this is not.
Even though it butts up against it, it wouldn't. Because from what I understand, that our little subdivision, there's only 6 homes in that little cul-de-sac. I know that was part of like a 20-year study at one time, which really affects the subdivision behind that. Because obviously our little cul-de-sac is focused more on Harper, not that subdivision behind it, which is why that's the reason why everybody's rezoning that to the NDRD. And it shouldn't have any effect on rezoning. I mean, I don't know if this is the time to bring this up, but if someone's just let their house dilapidate, that shouldn't allow them to just rezone to rebuild, right? I mean, I should have the same opportunity. I mean, we've maintained our house, I guess is my point.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
So now I was gonna make a comment as far as we generally try to stick with our future land use plan designation, and I mean, I understand what he's saying, it's abutted, and so therefore we could change his, but then by that same logic, the next person can come in and change it, and eventually you would have this
Draw a
whole.
line somewhere.
Right, the whole area would be zoned something different, which would be in conflict with the future land use plan, so for that reason, I would agree with staff.
These different ways.
We've studied the area a lot. That's what I will say. We've studied the area a lot and come to the decisions of lines. Thoughts, comments, questions, motions?
I make, but, because I know there was talk before about negative motions and what, so how should we make the motion? Do we, I'll try to make the motion, so I'll make a motion for, case RZ 20220006, to forward to the city council with a recommendation for denial.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And we'll still advertise for the August 16th meeting.
August
so it
16th,
will
city
be
council.
forwarded to city council for their ultimate decision.
And next is Big Dan's Car Wash, which has requested to postpone until August 11th. Your next.
Has it been to BZA?
It is not. They postponed this month and will be heard in August, on August 3rd, before your meeting on the 11th.
Yep.
I need a motion to postpone to date certain.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, next up is a request for a recommendation to City Council for conditional use approval for a commercial support use, a climate control storage facility at 1600 East Sanford Avenue. Here's an aerial located on East Sanford between EUD and Glen Avenue. The property is in the Comprehensive Development District, zoning district. Here is the master development plan that was submitted for the site. The development is going to consist of office, a bank with drive-through, and the requested self-storage facility. The bank has been previously approved, and the office does not require conditional use approval. The request is consistent with the master plan that was approved in 2018, and a traffic study has been conducted. Any improvements will be
completed by the developer. Here is a site plan showing the storage facility, the bank, and the office. Kind of hard to see, but another version. Here we have some elevations. This is from the north. Very nice. North elevation, south elevation. East on the top and west on the bottom. And staff recommends approval with conditions. I think maybe one of the main ones the applicant may wish to speak about are the hours of operation. For the self-storage facility, we're recommending they be limited to 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Any questions?
It's really the only one of note.
Yes.
I would just comment on that we have met with the applicant, and the 7 a.m. to, whatever you just say, 11 p.m.?
10 p.m.
That 10 p.m., that they're in agreement with that as of our last conversation. Is that still correct?
Yeah, 11 would be great.
Sorry, I misspoke, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. This does require a public hearing. We'll open that now for this agenda item if anybody would like to come and speak. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners?
We'll make a motion to approve 2022033 to forward to City Council.
With
For
conditions.
approval with conditions.
Right. Yeah, I'm sorry, with conditions, thank you.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's a quick question, staff. Does that pretty well fill up, develop that side of Sanford? Sanford? These are gonna be at the end of Greystone. Greystone's built, and this carries it on to the office medical park.
Correct,
Go
yes.
back one more. I think it's, go back one more on this side.
Yeah, that pretty well, or is that another parcel? That fills it up, doesn't it? With the
It
exception
does.
of the undeveloped or complete parcels of the, to the.
There we go.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, good.
That didn't take long to fill up.
Since the schools pay no taxes.
Have you all
Something
voted?
out of that.
Yes, we thought.
Sorry. I'm just gonna sit there. Okay, 2 more to go. Next up is a request for conditional use approval for a performance residential development, a multiple unit development at 644 Harper Avenue. It's going to be in the Corridor Redevelopment District East zoning district. Here is the aerial of the property off Harper Avenue between Summerhill and Dean. Prox map of the location. The request does include 2 waivers, one to reduce the east buffer yard from 15 feet to 10 feet, and the second to reduce the required landscaping on the east and west property boundaries from 20 tree inches per 100 linear feet to 3 tree inches per 100 linear feet. And the reasoning for the 20 tree inches is because the property abuts single-family residential on those property lines. The development will be 3 units with 9 bedrooms. And staff does recommend approval of the request with conditions. We feel that the applicant has provided an adequate buffer yard here, so we recommend approval of the waivers as well.
This does require a public hearing. I'd like to open that now. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. If you have any questions for the representative, there is one here.
I don't.
You also have the option if you want to do it all at one time, correct? Both waivers and, oh, okay.
Let me just note one thing on this applicant. We are adjacent to what is single-family homes, but this whole road is all rental property. You know, there's no, you know, personal residences next door here. When we're doing this, we're sliding the house up to the front. Most of those homes are pushed back. They're old, built in the 70s. And we're pushing this house up. And the goal of these buffer yards is we're trying to save a lot of the mature trees that are along the shared property lines as well. And it's, you know, really, most of the screening we're doing is trying to screen them from us, not us from them type mentality with this, because most of the stuff in there is in pretty rough shape. So this is just following that line of redevelopment for the future land use plan and what's kind of taking place along Harper. And it's just, and the reason why we got to get these waivers is because we're kind of like the first guy in. Once people start abutting us, all those buffer yards are going to go away against, you know, those like uses. So I just want to make that clear, not think that we're trying to put this in the middle of a single-family true residential neighborhood or anything. So
These houses were probably built in the 60s.
probably, yeah. So just want to make that clear. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question that the applicant might be able to answer. When we had our meeting on Monday to go through the agenda, one thing we talked about was we're supporting the waiver and the reductions of some of those buffers, but along the east side of the building, the landscape plan is presented, doesn't show any trees. I don't think there's an additional requirement for trees. And we talked about possibly adding a condition that, since we're reducing that space down, providing some trees between the building and the property line. So I don't know if the applicant could address whether they would be supportive of that or not.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can. You know, it is, you know, with the height and everything and the mature between there, I mean, we might be able to get, but you're not, it's gonna be tough to get an overstory tree to grow in that 10 feet, so.
Size appropriate trees.
Yeah, I mean, so it'd probably just have to be some, you know, overstory or something like that, but if we need to put, you know, 2 or 3 understory trees in there, I don't think it's a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Was that east or west buffer yard?
It's on the east side.
You can do the waiver separately, or you can include it all together and add that condition if you wish.
I'll go ahead and move that we approve this with the 2 waivers and the additional condition that for trees along the east side along the building. Appropriate sized trees.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay. Last on your agenda tonight is a request for waivers to the subdivision regulations regarding minimum lot area and flag lot requirements. The property is located at 219 Lee Road 663, which is outside the city limits, but within the planning jurisdiction. Property is also located outside of the optimal boundary. Here's an aerial. The nearest city limits are to the northeast, approximately a quarter mile away. Other than that, if you see down on the bottom, they're a pretty good ways away. There are 3 waivers requested. The first is to subdivide lots less than 1 acre in size for property located outside of the city limits but within the planning jurisdiction. The applicant is requesting to subdivide the property into these 6 lots designed as a family subdivision. The second request is to allow less than 500 feet between non-adjacent flag lots on the same side of the street, which would be 2 flag lots located to the east, 1 to the west, and there's approximately 110 feet between those lots. And the final request is to allow flag lot stems to be a minimum of 20 feet as measured at the road frontage. The subdivision regulations require 25 feet, and they're requesting 20. This is designed, as I said, as a family subdivision divided between 6 members. The property has been in their family 60-plus years. Lee County State Code does allow exemptions for family divisions of land, and Lee County
accepts that, that statute. Auburn does not, so that's why these waivers are before you. We do recommend denial, just as strict application of the subdivision regulations, but feel that granting of the waivers should not cause any adverse effect to the city.
Question. Did public safety comment on this at all?
We did not hear from
Fire.
public safety.
Okay, I didn't know whether the 20-foot flags would allow them to get back into any houses that are built in F, E, and D.
Yeah, the flag lots.
I did not speak with them.
Oh, we hadn't heard from them.
I did hear from the county engineer, and they were okay with the subdivision.
If I could comment further, I believe that this is outside of our fire police jurisdiction, isn't it? Not, we don't fire in this area, and it's not going to eventually be within the city limits, is that correct?
I think it's very unlikely that it would ever be in the city limits. It's located sort of across the street from Lochapoka Elementary School, off of Beehive.
High school, okay.
High school,
Okay.
excuse me.
This does require a public hearing, so I am going to open that now. If you'd like to speak on this subject, this item, please come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is James Floyd. I'm representing Next Step LLC, which is a limited partnership that was developed after the death of our father. Right now, we have 6 siblings that are still alive. My father was a sharecropper and was able to purchase this land through his hard labor back in the very, very early 60s. I think I was in the 5th grade at the time. And one of the desires that he had, and he shared with each of us as siblings, is that we maintain the property and that it goes to each of us in shares that would be equally distributed among us. Our father passed in 2000, and in the process of trying to follow up on his wishes, we were able to, in 2015, to get a survey done that would recognize the equal lot shares. At the time, I had approached the Lee County Commission, and during that time, the lot sizes was acceptable, and as a result, we created, had the survey done with the lots flagged as they are currently in as equal as shares as we could possibly get. But since that time, what brings me here is in trying to make this happen, I've now discovered that the rules have changed somewhat in that since 2015, when we initially got the survey done and the plats grown up, there's now an audience regarding the distance between the property and the city limits. Because there is an annex area that is within the distance that I guess is recommended, we're now at this point where the county asked me to approach the city of Auburn for the waiver to allow us to still be able to separate the property so that each of the siblings can get a share of it. One of the things that has also happened during the time, the first if you look at Lot A, B, and C, those 3 lots are already developed. My sister lives in Lot C. She's had her home there probably for the last 15 years. After she got out of college, she worked at at Smith Station as a school teacher up until she retired. During that time, she raised her kids and so forth on that property where her house currently sits. The Lot B is where our home house is located, and the Lot A is the developed lot that I personally have had developed previous that I had a home on. So what we're asking, in essence, is to, now 2 of my brothers lives out of town, but right now, all of us, the youngest of the ones of us that are associated with the property is 68. So all of us have retired and is looking for a place for home, or even for those that are out of town. One lives in Ronald Robbins, Georgia, the other one in Columbus, South Carolina. And they often ask about when can we arrange to get this to where they can put something there where they can come home to a facility that they could be comfortable in when they're here. So we're asking you to grant us the waiver that we're asking of so that we can follow through on our father's wishes that each of us have an equal share in the lots before it dwindles anymore in terms of the guidelines. I know time changes everything, but I can't change what have happened already 3 years, how many years ago when the guidelines changed, but I can ask that you grant us this waiver this time so that we're able to follow through on our father's wishes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And since you were the applicant, the public hearing is still open if anyone would like to speak. So, seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners?
I'd like to make a motion to actually accept the 3 waivers as proposed. And I don't believe there are any other stipulations. If the request is just for the 3 waivers.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. We have some business to attend to this evening. Give me 1 second. Tonight, we have the pleasure of electing officers for the Planning Commission. The annual election of officers will now take place. As we do not have a slate, we will take nominations from the floor for all offices. We will begin with the office of chairperson.
I'd like to make a nomination of the current vice chair to step forward and become permanent chair. I think she chairs a very good meeting, and I think she'll do a fine job as chair.
Are very, very sweet. Unfortunately, I don't actually wish to be chair. I would love to stay vice chair, but I know I'm setting boundaries in my life.
I'd like to, okay.
I'm sorry.
I gotta amend my thing and
appreciate
ask
you
the
so
vice chair
much.
to remain as vice chair. Because having a well-run meeting is very valuable to all of us.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Can I make a motion to nominate Dr. McCord then, and as chair? And so that would be my nomination.
I second that.
Okay, we have a nomination for Mr. Warren McCord to serve as the chairperson. Anyone else?
Are you willing to do so, sir?
Yeah, well, I drew the short straw, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Next up, we have the vice chair position. I'm happy to accept your nomination.
Very good.
It would need to be seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. And now, we also need a secretary.
Who's the current secretary?
No one? Matt, it was Mac.
Mac, oh, okay. Well, I had,
I'd like to nominate Robin. She can't defend herself since she's not here, so I'm going to make a motion that we nominate Robin Bridges as secretary.
I'll second that if that's, if that's proper.
Won't be here next month when she.
Okay, all those in favor of Robin Bridges as secretary?
Aye.
Perfect. Now, please remain after the meeting to sign your life away with Miss Jessica. And I believe that concludes unless you have anything else for us.
I do. Thank
Okay,
you very
good.
much for asking. So one, I just wanted to, I'm always giving a plug on the upcoming training, so I'm going to keep mentioning it, August 24th. Make sure you have it on your calendar. It's from 11:30 or so till 4 in the afternoon. So thank you for that. Then I'd like to just compliment staff. I appreciate them stepping up to the plate and filling in for Logan in his absence tonight, doing reports and presentations on those things that they wasn't their project to manage. So I appreciate them doing it. I think they did an excellent job. Thank you.
well, can I make a comment on
Great
that
job as
line?
always.
Not to make a comment on that line, there was some implied things in some of the emails that I got that I wanted to say to the public, and they're not here, is the fact that I've worked throughout the state and the southeast a good bit over the years, and I have not found a city that had a better planning staff than we have here. You're professional, you're ethical, and transparent, and appreciate everything you do for us.
And you dot all your i's and cross all your t's. You know what? I mean, and the thing, I mean, you guys send out notices, you handle 200+ cases a year. And you do it so efficiently, and the thought that you might be greasing your hands, I mean, I'm sorry, I think I know where y'all live, and you guys aren't doing a very good job spending that money. So anyway, I found that, I just want you to know that as public servants, and there are a lot of public servants recently that have been disparaged for doing their jobs, like those who count votes, you know? And so you guys do your jobs, and we appreciate it.
Let me also echo that as well. This is actually my last meeting, so I'd like to especially thank the staff for all the hard work you guys do. I'd like to thank my fellow commissioners also. I think we really earned our salary every time we come here, and so it's been an honor and a pleasure, so thanks, everybody.
Good job. Thank you. And I did want to thank you for your service.
Thank
as
you.
well.
We'll miss you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, and we are adjourned.
Amen.